Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. We're back. We're back in Boston. I'm out in left field here with at Fenway Park with the Green Monster. We're back. We're here. We're back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. I don't know why I just acted like I was Eminem, because I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today here on the free Fantasy Sports Daily Show, powered by FantasyGuru.com. We're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, free every day, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I host 4 days a week. On Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman hosts the show. Why do we make the change? Well, because on Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans. Jeff Mans' show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio is on 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So Jeff's on 5 days a week. I'm with Jeff on Wednesdays. When I'm with Jeff there, Justin's here. Then Monday through Friday at 8 to 10 Eastern is Elite Sports Game Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Justin Fensterman. So Justin and I, 5 days a week, 8 to 10. Jeff Mans, 5 days a week from 3 to 6. This show for free, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So 3 ways to get involved with us over at FantasyGuru.com. Many other ways. Yeah, I'd look at Kyle and say, he didn't know that flowers grew on the Green Monster. Well, they do. At least in this world. Our fun-ish, fake-ish world, real world. It's a real world. Let's go. Thanks for watching, Kyle. Appreciate the comment. And you might wondering, comment, what are you talking about? I go to FantasyGuru.com and I click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. And I just listen to the podcast. Totally fine. Maybe you type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network, and Spotify. What do we got? Google Music. I think we're on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Pandora. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily there. Or there are 3 places where you can watch the show live or on demand. If you're watching live, you can leave comments like Kyle did there that we'll address throughout the show. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. So have at it, folks. Join us for the conversation here. Join the fun that we have on the show Monday through Friday. Here's what we're talking about today. For those of you that are able to look at the screen. And for those of you that aren't, I'll read it a little bit. We're going to talk some baseball, as we always do at the start of the show. We'll visit with Tyler Beaker in about 25, 30 minutes. We'll talk some football with Tyler. The draft guide's available at FantasyGuru.com. More on that later. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, get set up. We'll talk a little bit about Tyler's contributions thus far to the draft guide at FantasyGuru.com. We'll talk about his best ball rankings. We'll talk about his wide receiver outlooks. We'll talk about his reviews of the divisions that he's been doing with Armando Marsal. And we'll also query him about some guys in the news: DJ Moore, Rashod Bateman, Rashee Rice, Calvin Ridley leading the charge there. Before that, we'll talk baseball. Robot umpires are coming, folks. We'll talk a little bit about that. Injury to Pablo Lopez. Mick Abel with a strong effort. Who is he moving forward? Aaron Nola. George Kirby. Roki Sasaki. Logan Gilbert. We'll have health updates on all these guys. Manea. On the offensive side of things, we'll talk a little bit about Coby, Mayo, and Chase Meidroth. So stay tuned for all of that discussion here on the show. Okay, so let's make a little bit of a change here. By the way, make me a little bit bigger. Oh, and by the way, you all know this too. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner at FantasyGuru.com. Get signed up for the baseball package. It's one package right now. If you sign up for the one single package, you get all of our coverage the rest of the season, which is seasonal, DFS, and wagering. All 3 for one package at FantasyGuru.com for baseball. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said yesterday that he plans to introduce a proposal to the 11-person competition committee that would implement the automated ball strike challenge system for 2026. So it's going to happen because it sounds like they already have the votes for all this. And so 2026 robot umps are coming to a ballpark near you. Now, this is not a removal of the human element. The human umpires will still be on the field. The way this is going to go is basically, and this has been, the ABS system has been used in minor league systems all across the land for a couple of years now. Human umpires will still be there calling balls and strikes. The batter, pitcher, or catcher can challenge an umpire's call. They just do a little head tap. And then the call is challenged and reviewed. And it takes 10, 15 seconds. It's really fast if it's implemented the way it is in the minors, so it shouldn't slow the game down much at all. The team, I think, gets a couple of challenges. They'll ferret all this out, but I think they'll get a couple of challenges. If you lose the challenge, it's like in football, you lose the challenge. If you are successful, you keep your challenge, that kind of a thing. So, we'll see. And I think it's really interesting. I was talking to Phil Backert about this the other day. There's this presumption that, oh my gosh, the umpires today are terrible. And they make mistakes. Absolutely. When you have a computer calling balls and strikes, as long as the computer's accurately set up, of course it's going to be better. My question is, how bad was umpiring back in 1986? You think it's worse today than it was then? I don't think that's the case. Maybe. I don't know. We don't have the data. I do know if you go back and watch, as an example, the Levon Hernandez game where Eric Gregg was the umpire. Eric Gregg was calling pitches that were 6 inches outside strikes. And Levon Hernandez was so on that day with his location. He just kept throwing the pitch 6 inches off the plate because he kept calling a strike. Boom, boom. He had 15 strikeouts, whatever the hell it was, 16 strikeouts in the game. So check that out. But the bottom line is we'll get these robot umps next year, and we'll get all the information as to how it's going to play out. But again, we're not going to replace the human beings. The human beings are still going to be there. The human beings are still going to call the majority of things. We're basically just going to get a challenge system like they have in the NFL, where teams can challenge a certain play, a certain pitch, much like they do right now when they have the ability to challenge, a safe call or an out call on a base. All right, let's talk a little bit about some pitching here. And unfortunately, this is a lot about the negative. We'll try to take some positive out of these comments that are coming up here, but it is a difficult situation we're sitting in. Pablo Lopez got a shoulder injury, and I was talking again with Phil Backert yesterday about this. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to be 2 months, right? And we're kind of like, yeah, okay, 2 months with his shoulder. Well, he's got a grade 2 teres major strain in his right shoulder, and he's going to miss 8 to 12 weeks. So it's not 2 months, it's probably 3 months. So it's even worse than we were anticipating. This is obviously a huge blow in the fantasy space because Lopez is extremely solid, extremely consistent. He's a strike thrower. He's a strikeout producer. He's a ratio stabilizer, all of those good things. So 3 months, we got 4 months left in the season. So this is bad. This is really bad in the fantasy space. Zebby Matthews, who we'll talk about in a few minutes, is already up in the rotation. So what's likely to happen is David Festa will take over the spot in the rotation with the Twins from Pablo Lopez vacation. Festa is somebody we'll talk a little bit more about, as we get closer to the fab and everything like that. I'll say this with Festa. He's a solid pitching option. He is somebody that can be added in deeper leagues, but, just like with Mick Abel, we have to be cautious here. Remember, the rankings were updated just a couple of days ago at fantasyguru.com. Apologies for the tech stuff. It's beyond my control. It's still an issue right now, but there is an updated rankings that went up on June 1st. It's in article form, so just go to the website. Go to the MLB section. You'll find the June player rankings, all 650 players there. They're located in the article. You can also download the Excel sheet for yourself. I just updated those. Does David Festa jump over 85 guys so he's now pitcher 61? No. Is he a usable piece in a deeper mixed league? Sure. I'd like it to be more matchup based. He's not Pablo Lopez where we're just going to start him every time out. But Festa's, again, matchup wise, it might make sense. Let's see if they've got a projection here as we pull this up. A probables grid for the Minnesota Twins would have David Festa pitching today against the Athletics. Is he actually active today? Let's see. I don't remember seeing. I might have seen this news yesterday and just forgot. I got a lot going on here. We're doing football, dynasty drafts, shows here and there. According to MLB Baseball, Major League Baseball's probable page, it's still to be determined who will be the starter for the Twins tonight. Let me check one other source for the Twins. Where are you, Twins? Twins. David Festa is probably going to be the guy. We'll see against the A's. I don't mind that at all. The A's are not exactly killing it at the moment. If he does pitch today and then stays on track here, his next outing would be against the Rangers, and the Rangers are just not hitting. So Festa's not a bad short-term pickup for those of you looking to get a little bit boost there if you'd lost a guy like Pablo Lopez. But again, check the rankings to make sure there's not someone that's sitting there that shouldn't be sitting there. Mick Abel, or Abel, excuse me. I always say his name wrong. Mick Abel held the Rays to 1 run over 5 1/3 innings yesterday. He became the only pitcher in the modern era since 1901 to throw at least 5 innings with no walks and no more than 1 run allowed in each of his first 2 career appearances. That's pretty surprising. Spent a lot of time, obviously, talking about. I'm hearing the beep as if I'm up in sleeper. Oh, I am. All right, I'm making a mock draft. I just made a draft pick for our mock draft while doing the show. So for those of you that take too long doing slow drafts, I just made a slow draft pick while on the show 15 seconds after it was my turn to pick. Just saying. Abel, excuse me, I always say it wrong. Abel has been terrific to start his career with the Phillies, obviously setting records there for his level of performance. The question is, what does this pitching staff look like? Is Taijuan Walker, who's overpaid, who's making $18 million a year this year and next year, I think. He was given a contract he shouldn't have been given. They blew it. He's a starter, not a reliever. I mean, ideally, this team would be Luzardo, Suarez, Wheeler, Sanchez, and Mick Abel. Like, that's the ideal, right now. Now, remember, we also have Andrew Painter, who's coming. He did struggle a little bit in his outing last night, but he's coming too. We're going to see him. He's arguably the number one right-handed pitching prospect in baseball if it's not Bubba Chandler. So, this is going to get tight. So Abel for right now, if you want to add him, go for it. No problem with that. His next outing is set to be against the Cubs. That's not a great matchup, on paper, all that kind of stuff. As Angelo said, yep, next matchup is against the Cubs. Good job. You're on top of things there, Angelo. And again, long term, it all depends. Are they comfortable with Walker in the bullpen? I don't know. And then Painter is coming at some point here in the second half. So for now, Abel's an ad. It is, as Angelo says, a challenging matchup there next time out against the Cubs. All right, here we go. Next up, get my notes. Aaron Nola, since we're talking about the Phillies, that's another issue, right? When Aaron Nola is healthy, he's going back in the rotation, right? So then it's Luzardo, Nola, Suarez, Wheeler, Sanchez. There's no Painter. There's no Abel. So unless the Phillies make a trade or unless people continue to be injured, Abel and Painter. Aaron Nola's been out with an ankle issue. And now he's been shut down with right side soreness. I mean, he's been a mess. We've talked about him here on the show, written about him over at fantasyguru.com. There'll be no Rays plays today over at fantasyguru.com. For those of you interested, there will be a Ramblings piece. So we will do some seasonal writing today over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. If you haven't got signed up, get the baseball package. It's one package, seasonal DFS wagering. Just one package available right now. Get it all. Aaron Nola's been out with the ankle injury. He's got a side issue. They shut him down for throwing. They're saying it's very mild and all this kind of stuff. I mean, at this point, let's say Aaron Nola is missing most of June, if not all of June. I'm guessing because I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how much of this is really injury, how much of this is they're trying to just figure out his mechanics and what's ailing him and all that. But he's probably going to miss most, if not all of June, which gives a guy like Abel, Abel the opportunity. I'm not good here in the morning. Abel the opportunity to establish himself. But even if he does, remember Walker, Nola, Painter could get tight without a trade there by the Phillies. Though there was a question in Discord this morning, there's Jarren Duran is available apparently for trade, or that could be a possibility. The Red Sox could move him. He's not a free agent until 2029. I'm not really sure why. I'm not really sure why that is. The question was about the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies have guys on the hill. I don't know if teams want to trade guys on the hill. I don't know. But it's going to be very costly to get Jarren Duran in a trade, given the fact that he's not a free agent until 2028. Speaking of guys on the hill, George Kirby, who obviously was hit in the face his last time out, was able to play catch yesterday. Looks good. So it seems likely that he will be able to make the start on Sunday against the Angels, which is really good news. Obviously, Kirby has struggled in his couple of appearances since returning from injury to live up to expectations. It's a matchup against the Angels, which obviously is not a scary one. And since Kirby is usually a guy that's able to locate his pitches pretty well, is he a starter this on Sunday? I think that you could make the argument both ways. I'd probably lean no. Head-to-head's different. And Roto, I'd probably lean no. I'd really like to see him have a clean outing. And he just hasn't the first couple of times out. But great news, he's playing catch, and it looks like he will make that start Sunday against the Angels. Roki Sasaki, who's got the shoulder issue he's dealing with right now, played catch yesterday. There's no timetable as he's starting a throwing program after missing all the last month with the shoulder injury. I think it's very reasonable at this point with Sasaki to think that June is gone for him. Maybe he gets back before the All-Star break. That's a best case scenario. In a more likely scenario, who's back after the All-Star break. This is, hope it doesn't shape up to be a lost season for him. Kind of like Kodai Senga had last year, just a lost season. Hope it's not a lost season for Sasaki. Well, he already threw more than a couple of innings like Senga did last year, so I guess it's better than that. But hopefully Sasaki will be able to get back out there, be healthy, and be productive in the second half of the season for the Dodgers and for us in fantasy, because clearly he's been one of the more disappointing pitchers. I think we at fantasyguru.com, me, probably lower on Sasaki than the majority of people were coming into the season, but still, I didn't have him ranked pitcher 96 or anything like that. And now he hasn't even been pitcher 96. So really struggle to date, but moving in the right direction very slowly. They're going to be very cautious with his recovery here, coming back from the shoulder injury. They got to get him figured out, much like Aaron Nola for different reasons, but they got to get him figured out. Dodgers still don't know when Glasnow's coming back. We still don't know when Snell's coming back. Clayton Kershaw's not looked great here since he's returned. Dodgers are fine. They got 106 options on the hill, but they might not get there the way they expected to get there. Though in the second half, if Snell, Glasnow, and Sasaki are back. Exactly. Speaking of the Mariners, I should have put these two guys back to back. Logan Gilbert allowed 2 runs in 3 innings yesterday in a minor league rehab start for AAA. It's really good when a team has a minor league club very close. He did the AAA Tacoma team last night, which is close to the Seattle's home team. Here in San Francisco, the Giants have the San Jose Giants. It's only their AA team. AA? Or is it single A? Why am I drawing a blank here? They say that, it doesn't sound right. I think it's AA. Is it single A? I'm drawing a San Jose Giants. San Jose Giants are minor league baseball. Single A team down here in San Jose. So it's about a 40-mile drive from the single A to where the Giants are at. So they can have guys that are coming back from injury just go and pitch in single A, go take some at bats in single A, and they're right down the street. So that's always nice versus having someone across the country. Anyway, Logan Gilbert pitched yesterday, gave up a couple runs in the 3 innings. He was at 97 almost miles an hour in the first inning. He was down to about 94 at the end of his outing. So, is that an injury-related thing? No one's believing that. No one's saying that. That's probably he just got a little tired because, again, he's ramping things back up here. Going to get one more outing in the minors, maybe 2, depending upon how it goes. But coming back from that right flexor elbow issue that he was dealing with, this is very good news with Glasnow, moving in the right direction. Maybe next weekend we see him back in the big leagues. If not, some point probably mid-June. I think that's a very fair time frame to look at with him. All right. Next up, as we go round and round, Sean Manea, some good news with Sean Manea. He's coming back from the oblique injury that has taken forever. Not appreciably different than the time frame we were told, but still, this has taken a long time for him to come back. He's going to make a minor league rehab start on Friday at High A Brooklyn. He's with the Mets. Much similar thing here, right? Close team. He's been on the injury list since spring training, working from that oblique injury, working his way back. I mean, that's a couple of months already. 3 months for an oblique. Ooh, that's a long time. He will need multiple starts, obviously, down on the farm to get back into game shape. Manea has been he was really good last year, especially down the stretch. Seems like he rediscovered some of his early career success, had a couple of seasons that were kind of blah, but really found it in the second half last year. He'll be a welcome addition back to, obviously, the Mets rotation and to all of us in the fantasy space if he's that guy. Now, can we expect him to be that guy immediately upon a return from an injury that cost him multiple months? Exactly. We don't know. So I think that Manea is probably 4 weeks away. So right at the end of June, right at the start of July, probably where we're thinking he'll return. So he's not somebody you have to add like this week in the fab run or waivers. If you have an IL spot, it's not a bad option because, again, he's going to take the ball every 5 games for the Mets. Very reasonable to expect him to be effective at kind of a worst case scenario, maybe even more than effective. So he's working his way back. Again, we're probably about 4 weeks away from seeing him return to the big leagues. Going back to the Twins, we talked about Pablo Lopez and David Festa earlier. Zebby Matthews worked 5 innings of 1-run baseball against the Athletics yesterday. That's 11 innings of 1 run allowed his last couple of times out. He's facing the Rangers next time out. As we've discussed already on this show, the Rangers are not a good offense right now. No one's hitting right now for the Rangers. They're just, they can't. Corey Seager's returning hasn't hit. Dolis Garcia can't even get on the lineup on a consistent basis. Evan Carter can't find his footing. they're just not hitting right now. So anyone facing the Rangers, in theory, is in line for a potential beating because there are a bunch of boppers on that squad. But the reality is they're just not producing. So Zebby Matthews, obviously somebody we're firing up for his next time out. Been weird with Matthews. Multiple people have asked me questions about Matthews as if he's not done well. I don't know what the expectations were. He's been terrific, in my opinion. If he's on a waiver wire, you're in a shallow league, you're in a head-to-head league, scoop him up for that start against the Rangers. I think Matthews has the talent and he has a role. So he's one of these youngsters that could make 15 starts the rest of the way, and you're using him 13, 12 times, right? This is not just a guy in Zebby Matthews that we're looking at as a streaming option. So keep that in mind if he is available on your waiver wire. Randy Rodriguez. Are the Giants making a change in the ninth inning again? They already went to Camilo Duvall and got rid of Ryan Walker. Randy Rodriguez got 2 outs for the save last night. No, I don't think they're making a move. I think that the number 2 guy with the Giants is still Ryan Walker. If something were to happen to Duvall, injury or continued struggles, last time out he wasn't very good, but he's been great this year. Continued struggles, I think they'd still go back to Ryan Walker. Randy Rodriguez is somebody that we talked about either was it Monday this week or Monday last week? He was added. I think it was Monday this week. He has been phenomenal. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball no one is talking about right now. He's a Giants reliever. He, in 27 innings, has walked 3 guys and given up 1 home run. His whip in 27 innings is 0.6. 0.62. Oh, and by the way, his K rate is 40%. Again, he might be the best reliever in baseball right now. I mean, really. But he has 1 save. So, he's probably still third in line with the Giants. But if you need some ratio help, if you're in a Solds league, he's up to 7 Solds. I think that number will start to increase, though the Giants do have, obviously, Tyler Rogers, so they use all the time. There's just a lot of options in the Giants bullpen. And this is why the Giants are having success. Their pitching staff is performing really well and hoping to carry an offense. It's kind of so-so at the moment. Kumar Rocker, speaking of the bullpens, Kumar Rocker, he's drafted, he's redrafted, he hurts his arm, he has surgery, and all this kind of stuff. At one point in time, Kumar Rocker was a top 10 prospect in baseball on the Hill. He might have been just a top 10 prospect in baseball, but he certainly was a top 10 pitching prospect in baseball. And he's really struggled to make it to the big leagues with health issues. And performance has been a concern too. Now he's, this year he's struggled whenever he's been given an opportunity around the health issues he's dealt with this year. And last night was another one of these efforts against the Rays, a couple of walks, had 5 strikeouts in 3 1/3 innings, but gave up 5 runs. And he's just, he's just not getting it done. And the Rangers and all major league teams don't need every guy to be an ace. You need a guy in your 4th or 5th spot in the rotation to give you 5 1/3 innings and give up 3 runs. Just keep us in the game. He's not able to do that right now. And there's been talk about his pitch mix change. Last night he was leaning on the cutter, which is not a pitch he has been throwing this year. And, his slider is dynamic, but the rest of his pitch mix is a little. So there have been rumors about Kumar Rocker going to the bullpen. And I don't know if you want to, at this point in time, if you're the Rangers, abandon the hope that he could become a starting pitcher. I don't know if you want to just put him in the bullpen. I mean, he's not a young guy per se because of all the injuries he's dealt with. I mean, he's only thrown 35 innings in the big leagues, but he's already 25 and a half because of his health issues he's had to date. He could potentially be a dynamic option in the bullpen because fastball slider, we see this happen a lot. When guys can't develop the depth in their repertoire, they get moved to the pen and have success. Again, I don't know if the Rangers want to do that. There have been reports that they might do that. It's kind of been refuted by the team. We're not really looking to do that. But at some point this season, they might do that. MacKenzie Gore. I see a comment about MacKenzie Gore. I saw it earlier today. MacKenzie Gore. Where is MacKenzie Gore? A lot of activity here. Right there. Kyle. Gore is on a torrid K pace right now. Impressive. Yeah, he is leading baseball in strikeouts right now. We talked about him last night on that Elite Sports Game Time show, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Friday. And I mentioned that I had Gore in the Breakout Pitcher of the Year article over at fantasyguru.com. He wasn't the selection. And the reason I didn't choose him, honestly, was because it felt cheap. And I talked about this last night with Justin. He threw over 160 innings last year with 180 strikeouts. He qualified for inclusion in the study because of his cost. His ADP was like around 200. But it's like, how good is he going to have to be to break out from 160 innings and 180 strikeouts, right? So he was in the article. Hopefully you drafted him even though he wasn't the guy that we chose, which was Nick Lodolo. But another strong effort last night, 7 innings, shutout baseball against the Cubs. And I said last night with Justin, I'll reiterate it here. It's easy to forget that MacKenzie Gore was the number one left-handed pitching prospect in baseball a few years ago. Number one. And he was a top 10 prospect in baseball, all positions. And he lost his mechanics, and he struggled with some health issues and COVID, and like all these things kind of happened. And Gore took 4 years longer than anticipated to get here. The guy we're seeing right now, that would not have been absurd to have said 5 years ago for MacKenzie Gore at all. And this guy was the third pick in the country, and again, the number one left-handed pitching prospect in baseball. He has been fantastic. He's got a 35% K rate, which is noted here by Kyle. It's not even impressive, Kyle. It's uber impressive. I'll add an adjective. It's even more impressive than impressive. It's fantastic. He is rocking and rolling right now, and because he threw 166 innings last year, there's no reason to think he can't throw 180 this year. And if he throws 180 this year, he's going over 200 strikeouts. Do we have our new left-handed version of Dylan Cease? We might. And MacKenzie Gore. Next up is Mark Vientos. We'll talk a few hitters before we talk some football with Tyler Beaker. Mark Vientos has been diagnosed with a low-grade right hamstring strain. He's going to be shut down for 10 days to 14, so he's going to be shut down for about 2 weeks. Then I'll probably need another week of games, so about 3 weeks with him on the sidelines. Ronnie Mauricio is obviously up with the Mets now. The Mets will try to figure this out. When Vientos gets healthy, Mauricio is probably the guy that's on the outs, just like we saw earlier with Beatty there and Acuna floating around as well to play a little bit here and there. So Mauricio's got a couple of weeks to hit, as we talked about earlier this week. He's got a couple weeks to hit to convince the Mets to keep him around when Vientos returns from that hamstring injury. Ryan Mountcastle's got a hamstring injury of his own. And it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of time here. So Coby Mayo, we talked about on Monday when we discussed Fab. Coby Mayo is going to get a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks here to hit and see, basically taking over the spot of Ryan Mountcastle. Coby Mayo could be as good as Ryan Mountcastle. And in fact, if he lives up to his potential, he'll probably be better than Ryan Mountcastle, right? So this is an interesting scenario. Mountcastle might return and not really have a job. So if Coby Mayo's on the waiver wire right now, make a move. Arguably the number one power hitting prospect in baseball, that has less than 50 games played at the big league level. He's certainly on that short list. And finally, Chase Meidroth went 3 for 4 yesterday for the White Sox. He's reached base in 19 to 20 games, which is pretty damn good for any player, let alone a youngster. He's hitting over 300. He's hitting over 300 for the White Sox. Let's pull him up real quick. What a great name, Chase. We talked about him when he was promoted and said, look, this guy's going to be in the lineup on a consistent basis, all that. And remember when he started out super hot with the steals? Well, he's still sitting at 8 steals. He's stopped running, which is not a surprise because he's not a 30 steal guy. But he's hitting 300 with a 382 on base percentage. As predicted, he has walked. As predicted, he has not struck out. As predicted, he has put the ball in play and been effective. Only has 1 home run and 7 RBIs, so very limited. Kind of a junior Jacob Wilson, if you will. But this is about as good a start as you possibly could have hoped for with Meidroth. 1.1 walk to strikeout ratio. Absolutely fantastic start to his big league career. Really impressive for the kid. All right, remember you can go to fantasyguru.com. Sign up right now for the baseball package. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. DFS, seasonal wagering, all of it, one package at fantasyguru.com. The football package that we are proud of is also available right now. You can get signed up, just like with baseball, for a variety of products. In football, they're separate products. Remember, baseball is just one product right now. But in football, you can sign up for the seasonal football package, which is rocking and rolling, articles coming out every day. You can sign up for the DFS football package and the wagering football package. Of course, those aren't active right now, but you can sign up for them. You can sign up for 2 of the 3 by sending a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com, or you can sign up for all 3 of them by going with the all-in package. So click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. As you can see there on the screen, we have rankings out the rear end. If I'm being polite, we've got PPR rankings, non-PPR rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, best ball rankings. These will continue to be updated throughout the preseason. Remember, if you get the package at AFG, it's not a preseason package. It's a full regular season package. So you sign up now, you get coverage all the way through week 18. You get access to all the articles. You get access to Discord. You get access to live streams. We have that live stream that Tyler Beaker's on every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time at fantasyguru.com. So get signed up right now. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get 1, 2, 3, all of the packages if you want. You can always send a note, support@fantasyguru.com. All right, without further ado, as they say, let's talk a little bit of football with the man that we talk with every Thursday. It's Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Let's welcome him in. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing good, Ray. A little winded right now. I was doing a lot of trips to and from the car, getting groceries out. Wife's home, so big shout out to her for doing the grocery shopping.
Okay.
But shout out to everyone else who's been doing those workouts, those arm workouts, carrying 8 to 10 bags at once.
Right.
Quite the little workout there.
Was it just a regular grocery store, or was it like the stop at the local mart where you go to, like, Sam's Club or Costco or something, and it's like 3 weeks of stuff?
It was like maybe say 2 weeks worth of stuff. She went to 2 different grocery stores.
Okay. All right. And your stairs, do you have stairs?
Yep.
Tons of stairs? 1 flight, 2 flights?
1 flight, not bad. 1
Okay.
flight, not bad.
Okay. Yeah.
Things are good here, though. Yeah.
Well, I love what you're wearing here. Talk to the people that aren't, the people that are watching, obviously. And for those that aren't, what are you wearing?
A Guardians of the Galaxy T-shirt,
right?
Big fan of them, and an Underdog Cardio Club hat, which feels apropos.
Yeah, so normally you wear the cardio hat. That is like you get on a treadmill kind of thing, and isn't that what that came from, or am I making that up completely?
No, it came from doing drafts while doing cardio through Underdog. So partly, right? Yeah. They have this program where if you complete X number of drafts while working out, you have to track it and show a screenshot of your draft along with your workout. You can join the Underdog Cardio Club. I've luckily been grandfathered in. Okay. So I think the hat was a gift this past year or the year prior.
The scoring came out, I think, yesterday or whatever, too. What do you think? Point per reception, point per target, tight end premium. I think every catch a tight end makes is like 3 points now. So I don't know. Does that mean that Brock Bowers and Trey McBride are going top 5?
I'm sorry, for what?
For Scott Fishbowl.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Okay.
So sounds like it's going to be very high scoring.
Yeah, it came out yesterday. So it's a point per reception, a point per target, and then it's tight end premium. And I think it's 1 point for the tight end. So yeah, a catch by a tight end gets you 3 points because you get a catch, you get a target, you get the bonus point. Sorry if I left Scott Fishbowl out. Yeah, it just came out yesterday. We'll talk obviously more about this. I'm sure you'll dive into it and have a ton of work for us. You'll have rankings for that, I assume, at some point. Isn't that normally something you do?
I usually do a preview of what the scoring format means and draft strategy behind it. Don't usually do rankings because it's pretty niche.
Okay. What you do rankings for is the best ball scenario, and I know that they're up and available. Talk us through where you're at with that process. You mentioned Underdog, who obviously has one of the contests out there. Where are we at right now with the best ball package is part of what you get if you sign up over at fantasyguru.com.
Yes, we have our best ball guide launching this upcoming Monday, June 9th. You can see my little dry erase board behind me. It's very filled with basically all the articles I've got to write for that time period. I jumped on it yesterday, got some introduction started, where to play, roster construction strategies for drafters, rankings for drafters. Those were all done yesterday. Today I'm working on the Underdog roster construction piece. I'm working on Underdog rankings updates, but it'll be one big sweeping update for June 9th. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of content heading your way as part of this year's draft guide.
Part of your content that's already available right now is the wide receiver outlook piece, which is basically scouting reports. It's like a paragraph on a bunch of guys at the wide receiver position. Am I accurately describing that? And tell us a little bit more about it, whether I am or not.
Sure. We've been doing these tiered outlooks for the past few years, breaking down quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. I've carried the torch for the wide receiver position, looking at the top 60 wide receivers. I have them breaking down into different tiers. And we like to spice things up over at Fantasy Guru. We don't just do things the vanilla path. So we add some different ways to create our tiers. And in years past, I know Armando Marcel has done his in forms of cuts of steak. I did mine this year in flavors of ice cream. So curious, Ray, what is your 101 of ice cream flavors?
Yeah, I'm not a real big ice cream guy, but I'm traditional. I know there's a lot of new-fangled fancy stuff. I'd probably just say chocolate, and not chocolate chip, not chocolate mint, just basic old school chocolate would probably be my. Though I do enjoy daiquiri ice at Baskin Robbins, if people know what that is. What about you?
Ooh, fancy. I went with Moose Tracks, which I don't know if that's super fancy, but it has vanilla ice cream, chocolate fudge, and peanut butter cups. Anything with peanut butter cups is an upgrade in my eyes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, right. Jeff Mans, I think he says that like peanut butter cups is like the greatest thing ever invented. Chocolate and peanut butter together is pretty good.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of basic. We're actually going to be making some ice cream. We got one of the homemade ice cream makers, the real, one of the $80 units. You just push a button and all that kind of thing.
Nice.
We're going to be doing. So we picked cherries last weekend, so we're going to make some cherry ice cream here. That's and also mulberries. So we'll be doing that here later today. So I'll let you know how that goes. Tyler Baker of FantasyGuru.com. One other thing before we dive into some actual news, you're continuing to put out the divisional art write-ups over at FantasyGuru.com from the podcast you're doing with Armando Marsal. Go to FG, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find this show that we're doing right now, as well as Mind of Marsal with Armando. There's podcasts where Armando and Tyler talk about the division, and then the articles. And the article's not like 6 words, folks. There's charts and graphs and all that kind of stuff in there. Talk to us a little bit more about that, Tyler.
Yeah, the month of May, we started this project basically because the NFL draft was over. There's kind of like a bit of a dull period where there's not much going on. So we decided to look at like basically the culmination of how the offseason has set these teams up for 2025, looking at all the moves in free agency, the moves they've made in the NFL draft, and how it kind of is offering like a bit of a preview for the upcoming 2025 fantasy season for each squad. We did division by division. We are left with one left. There's the NFC South we'll be doing tomorrow. But yeah, we've been doing write-ups to go along with the podcast. Armando's podcast is also available on YouTube if you want to watch, if that's your jam. But I also got written content because that's other people's jam. People like to read rather than listen or watch shows. So we've got you covered all bases over there, Fantasy Guru. But those are fun to write up because they are basically taking a top-down approach in terms of the changes, the philosophical changes, the scheme changes, and how it trickles down into the individual player levels. So a lot of good content over there, and we're just getting started.
Look at this guy. He's selling today. I love it. And he's not just selling it because he's trying to sell something. He's got good stuff, folks. We're not. You see Tyler talk to us every Tuesday here at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He knows what he's talking about if I could learn how to speak. So click that subscribe tab over at fantasyguru.com. Get involved. And it's great. The community helps each other out. There's a Dynasty Discord room. There's a seasonal Discord room. There's a DFS room. There's a wagering. Like all the angles you could possibly have, we cover over at FG. And if you see something or you don't see something, you can always ask. And we're always working on stuff behind the scenes. So you can always ask. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com or click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Tyler, let's talk about some of the wide receivers here. DJ Moore. In the news, there's a report here in the last 24 hours. I don't know how many touches I'm going to get this year. The offense is different. Oh my gosh. People hear stuff like this, and some people will say, all right, I'm dropping DJ Moore 8 spots in my rankings because of DJ Moore saying this. Other people will say, who cares what anyone's saying? I know how this is going to go, and I'm not worried about DJ Moore leading this team in targets. What are your thoughts on DJ Moore? Generically, wide receiver 2? Specifically, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, last year was a bit of a down season for DJ Moore, and I was just talking about this with Armando earlier this week, where it looked like DJ Moore looked disinterested in terms of a team that was a 5-win team, wasn't really going anywhere. But when we split this offense into 2 different sections, basically weeks 1 through 10 with Shane Waldron, and weeks 11 through 18 when Thomas Brown took over the play calling and they let go of Waldron, we see a night and day difference between the performance of Caleb Williams. And because of that, I really think that we've just seen the tip of the iceberg where Waldron, it was a downright disaster. When they switched over to Thomas Brown, Caleb made significant leaps in basically every statistical category you could look at. And that bodes well for DJ Moore as well. Now we add Ben Johnson into the fold, a very creative play caller who's gotten the most out of Jared Goff these last few years. I'm expecting another step forward from Caleb Williams here in year 2. Full offseason to work in this program. They've improved the offensive line around him. They've added some more weapons. Sure, Colson Loveland, Luther Burden. But they've also gotten rid of Keenan Allen. So I think there's a good shot that DJ Moore has the wide receiver 1 status locked up in this depth chart. Keep in mind his 2023 season, the year before Caleb entered the picture, when it was with Justin Fields, DJ Moore was the wide receiver 9 on a fantasy point per game basis, 16.9 fantasy points. So there's a high ceiling here. And when we keep in mind that the offense has made all these steps moving in a forward, a positive direction, I think DJ Moore has a better shot at getting closer to that wide receiver 9 status than what he had last year at wide receiver 28. So I'm a buyer. He's currently a player you're not really having to force a lot in terms of draft equity and draft capital, but he's a guy that I think could easily clear expectations. And if we get even just one injury to Rome Odunze, Burden, Loveland. I think there's going to be even more target volume for DJ Moore to inherit, who is a really talented player. So give him a lot of volume, give him a competent quarterback entering year 2 with a lot more confidence behind a better line, and then throw in the scheming and the playmaking of ideation behind what Ben Johnson can do. And I'm very, very bullish on DJ Moore clearing his ADP.
By the way, someone named Tyler Beaker may have drafted DJ Moore in our mock draft that we're doing right now over at fantasyguru.com. That'll be posted in a couple of days. So for everyone looking for that, check that out. It's part of the package at FG. Another one of the guys we're going to talk about might also be on Tyler's team. I'm not going to say who it is. But another guy we talk about maybe also be on that team. We often say follow the money in sports, right? It tells you something. Rashod Bateman signed a 3-year, $37 million contract with the Ravens. And $20 million guaranteed. Okay. I mean, you want to get excited about this, right? Because you've got Zay Flowers and Bateman. Those are really the top 2 wideouts there in this offense. Can we get excited? Like, is Bateman somebody that you have any interest in? Do you think there's a real possibility he's a weekly play in the fantasy world? Is he just a best ball guy? Are you even bothering drafting him? Again, the money says, but what about the reality?
Does the money also say that with Darius Slayton? Because it was a very similar contract to what Slayton got.
Yep.
I know Bateman is coming off a fantastic season. Former round 1 selection, been unfortunately pigeonholed to some Greg Roman offenses to start his career, so there wasn't a lot of volume and opportunity. This past season, though, career best across the board, specifically in the touchdown department and the big play department. We saw a lot of spike weeks from him, 5 games of 15-plus points. I think that's where he's best utilized in terms of a fantasy lens in the best ball format, where we don't need to guess when he'll randomly be breaking free for a 40-yard gain that goes for a touchdown.
Right.
It's just a lot of volatility. This is a team that's still not going to pass a ton, but when they do pass, it's generally of the high EPA variety. There's generally a lot of touchdown equity tethered to what Lamar's been doing these last 2 years under Todd Monken. Keep in mind, first year under Todd Monken, Lamar Jackson, MVP. Second year under Todd Monken last year, he was just a few votes behind Josh Allen to winning his second back-to-back MVP. I'm very bullish on this squad, but I think you can be bearish on the individual pieces behind Lamar because it's so spread out. It's a small passing pie, and touchdowns are volatile.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. A lot has been obviously made about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. There's some people out there that think he's no longer a star and all that nonsense stuff, but the numbers have gone down the last couple of seasons. One of the reasons last year there were struggles is, his guys weren't healthy. He didn't have his weapons on the field all the time. And, most quarterbacks, if you take away their wide receiver 1 and 2, they're going to struggle. Rashee Rice appears to be back. He's coming back from the knee injury. We're getting good reports about him. Everyone seems very bullish on where Rice is at. Now, there's still that concern about the suspension, if something's going to happen because of the off-the-field stuff. Haven't heard anything about that in a long time, so I don't even know where that actually stands. Give us an update on your thoughts with Rashee Rice, because people do also forget that, Rashee Rice last year catching 6 passes for 85 yards every week, that kind of thing. Like he was balling out, and he would have had a 100-catch season last year if he had stayed healthy.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite draft picks last year. I was trying to leave every draft with either Rice or Worthy, anticipating one of those guys to be his wide receiver 1. And Rice was that guy to start the year. The first 3 weeks, a 32% target share, 9.7 targets per game, 41% first read rate, 41. So we're looking like at almost every other drop back. Mahomes is looking at Rice first. And he just was fantastic. 3.6 yards per out run, 21.6 fantasy points per game. Only Jamar Chase scored more over the duration of the season. It just goes to show that Rice was intended to be a key instrumental piece of this passing attack. Fortunately, injuries happened week 4. He ran into Travis Kelce, was out for a large chunk. Looks like he'll be ready to come back without any kind of setbacks at all. Health-wise, he looks great. Suspension-wise, it looks like everything I've seen and read has pushed us back to 2026 at the earliest. So that's not even a concern of mine either. I think Rice is a popular best ball riser in ADP right now because many people are finally coming around to the fact that he was so heavily involved and heavily utilized in this offense to start the year of 2024 that if all things our systems go in 2025, I think Rice continues what we saw in a guy that could easily eclipse his ADP. Like he's once again a priority click for me in fantasy drafts.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Priority ad. Look at that.
Yeah.
Another news story here. And again, it's obviously, usually it's coach speak that we talk about. This is quarterback speak. Cam Ward saying that Calvin Ridley is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He's not. Okay. But I think it speaks to the larger issue here that we deal with in the fantasy space is who is Calvin Ridley? He's obviously the number one option in the passing attack. It's great to hear the wide receiver defend the quarterback defend the wide receiver. Like, this is really good, right? Who is Calvin Ridley this season? Again, rookie quarterback in an offense that's not going to want to open it up and throw 40 passes a week. Where should we be drafting Calvin Ridley right now?
I want to take what Cam Ward said with a massive, massive grain of salt. Not even a grain, a massive boulder of salt, because he also put Treylon Burks in that top 5.
Oh, dear. I didn't hear that part. Oh, my God.
This was from, I think, around the NFL draft period when it was pretty evident Ward was number 1 going to Tennessee. Right. So I think it was a video game stream he was playing where he talked about his top 5 receivers in the NFL. Calvin Ridley was on that list, and so was Treylon Burks. He was a
top 5 receiver with the Titans. But anyway, go ahead.
I don't even know if Burks is going to make the final squad come September. Right. Let's talk Ridley, though, for sure. 22% target share last year, 1,000 yards his first year in Tennessee. That was with some poor, erratic quarterback play. But when we look at on a metric basis, he was top 20 at ESPN's open metric. Same rating as Jamar Chase, higher rating than Justin Jefferson. And this was on a run-heavy team where he drew a dominant number of the air yards there, where he was basically the vertical option. And when you're a vertical guy like that, his 1,849 air yards led the league. There's a lot of volatility to it, but there's also a lot of ceiling potential whenever he's able to connect on those throws. Now we've got a far more accurate quarterback in Cam Ward than what Will Levis and Mason Rudolph had. And I think we're going to see a lot of those unrealized air yards turn into actual on-field production. Keep in mind, Calvin Ridley also only had 4 touchdowns last year, which seems pretty low for a 1,000-yard receiver and a number 1 option in an offense. I'm expecting Ward, this offensive line, which is loaded with talent and playmakers, healthy Tony Pollard, a healthy Tajay Spears, some veterans that were added in late in the process, some rookies that are also expected to take some steps forward in the receiver room. It just all spells that the Titans are not likely to retain this number 1 draft slot again in 2026. I'll say that. I think Ridley is a great value play, not a priority play, but he's a great value play if you're looking for a receiver in the mid rounds.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Another news story, and this one set social media fire yesterday. J.K. Dobbins is going to Denver to have a visit. Now, he's a free agent. I don't know. None of us know what this meeting means, right? He could be going there because he wants a vacation. He could be going there because his family there, his friends are there. It could, But the bottom line is everyone is like panicking if they've drafted R.J. Harvey or if they have high hopes of R.J. Harvey. Don't forget, Sean Payton also said over the weekend that we got to get the ball more to Audric Estime. Okay, so apparently Sean Payton is letting you know that they're going to run the ball 53 times this year per game. Obviously, it's not happening. The backfield's going to be productive. If Dobbins signs, I don't really think it's a negative to Harvey. I think it's a negative to Estime. You talk us through the situation with the Broncos backfield with Dobbins there and without Dobbins there.
Yeah, he was having dinner with the front office and coaching staff, so it looked like it wasn't just a vacation trip. I envision they're trying to sell him to this team. Kind of interesting to see the player go from one divisional rival to another. I always like those kinds of storylines coming from the Chargers last year. But yeah, I mean, we look at last year's rushing attack, it was egregious. They were among the league's worst in terms of their rushing productivity. They were 21st in yards per carry, 17th in EPA per rush, but they had the number 1 blocking offensive line, which to me tells me there's a lot of rushing potential here. When you don't have a guy like Javonte Williams, who's absolutely cooked as your RB1, you got a young explosive back in RJ Harvey to carry the load. This was a team that shut down a healthy Audric Estime in the playoffs in order to give Tyler Beatty touches, a guy who's a 6th round nobody. He had 2 touches in that game. But the primary point there is the fact that they were willing to shut down Estime, a rookie who just looked like he needed more volume and more touches. I liked him as a prospect, but year 1 was not great. I think there's a chance that this signing really just points towards the lack of faith in Estime over the lack of faith in Harvey. So I'm continuing to draft Harvey where we are right now. We'll probably get a little bit of a drop because people are reading into this a bit too much. But Dobbins really just a secondary piece to me. For a team that made the postseason last year, they probably have higher hopes and higher aspirations in 2025. So win-now teams make win-now moves like this. I think bring Dobbins in is a good thing for this Denver team. and I don't think it's a major impact in terms of the fantasy value for RJ Harvey.
Shifting things over to the East Coast, to the Dolphins. And this is why I always think football is so interesting. Football plays 17 games, and it's a story 365 days a year. There's nothing to talk about on about half of those days. There's nothing to talk about. So we get Sports Illustrated's Dante Colinelli saying that it's going to be a breakout year for Jaylen Wright. He's going to carry more of the load in 2020. What the hell does this mean? What is Jaylen Wright's role if Devon Achane is healthy? 8 touches as a breakout. Talk us through Jaylen Wright. I like Jaylen Wright, and I think, where he's being drafted as ADP, I'm all about taking him in a fantasy squad. But I don't want this storylines like this to come out and have Wright now start, going up 2 rounds, 3 rounds in ADP, because people think somehow, Devon Achane. And if you think this, then why is Devon Achane going so early, right? Because they're related here. Again, this team's not running the ball 50 times a game. Talk us through Jaylen Wright, this storyline, and your expectations.
Well, I will say that Mike McDaniel's offense does want to run the ball as their primary means of moving the ball. Last year, they just didn't have the line to do it. They were really struggling up front. Then they had some quarterback issues. The vertical guys were unable to get any kind of rhythm going in terms of the vertical passing game. And it was all short dinks and dunks and just get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. We saw Achane with a ton of receptions, a ton of swing passes. We saw Jonnu Smith pick up a ton of passing patterns on shallow crossers, where it looked like the short area game was the way McDaniels was able to get this offense finally moving to some degree. Fast forward to 2025, the offensive line looks even worse. I don't think they improved much this offseason, frankly. But Wright now jumps into that RB2 role where they no longer have like Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert in the fold. It's Jeff Wilson. It's Jaylen Wright now, who was a rookie last year, didn't get a ton of playing time. So he got some sparse looks there, but the depth chart behind him is Alexander Madison, a guy that did terribly in Las Vegas the season prior, and Ollie Gordon, who had a phenomenal 2023 campaign, but the 2024 season was just a downright disaster, where it looks like Wright is the solidified RB2, and there's no real question marks in my eyes. Achane's a smaller size back where there's that possibility of him not being able to hold up to a 20 to 25 carry game on a consistent basis. Sure, sporadically we could see it, but I think he's better in that 12 to 15 carry mark with 5 or so catches as like him being best utilized and staying
like
healthy
Alvin
and fresh.
Kamara, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like that usage. Yeah.
You want that explosiveness to be ready on hand. If they're running 25 times, it's going to be tough. They did that with Kumar from time to time, and you saw those games usually turn into 3.1 yards per carry kind of outings.
Yep.
Wright offers a good reprieve there. I think he's a great handcuff. I think he's a great standalone selection too, because there's a possibility Achane gets injured at any moment. I love the dude. I think he's one of the best fantasy assets you can acquire. There is a lot of volatility and a lot of concern in terms of injury possibility there, though. I don't know. I feel like they're just trying to make a story out of something here in early June. I think Jaylen Wright's just a fantastic fantasy option this year and a guy that is probably going a bit too late in current drafts based on ADP.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Oh, excuse me. I'm all choked up, Tyler, talking to you. You mentioned this guy's name. Let's stay with the Dolphins for a second. Aaron Rodgers is somebody I don't ever want to talk about again. We've had to talk about Aaron Rodgers 5,000 times over the last 3 months. Jonnu Smith is the new Aaron Rodgers. Like every day there's a new report on Jonnu Smith. Adam Schefter says he's going to get traded. Adam Schefter says, no, wait, he's not going to get traded. Now who is Jonnu Smith? And what we know right now is he's part of this Dolphins offense. So talk to us about who he is and what your expectations are with him as a Dolphin. If there's a move, there's a move, and we'll reassess at that point.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith is finally that guy that can let Mike McDaniel utilize the offense the way he wanted to, coming from San Francisco over to Miami, where when they first started implementing this offense, they had Mike Gesicki in that role. Not a great blocker. We know that. He's a good pass catcher, not a great blocker. After he left, they had Durham Smythe do that. Great blocker, not a great pass catcher. They finally have this perfect F move tight end where they can put him across the formation, have him do pre-snap motion, get him out in space, get him with a full steam ahead, and let him catch and run. And we saw a fantastic season from him. A lot of that was due to the offensive line because Tua led the league in shallowest average depth of throw. I think it was like 6.2 yards. Don't quote me on that one, but he was the lowest, which really benefited the play of Jonnu Smith. And it really came at the expense of guys like Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle, where we no longer saw those deep shots or those manufactured little screens or quick little bubble screens or swing passes to those guys. Instead, it was going to guys like Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith. I don't know what the heck to expect here in terms of trade stuff, because it just sounds like a lot of offseason mumbo jumbo. We get these questions all the time. You see a tweet from Adam Schefter, and immediately people are asking us in Discord, what do we do? How do we react? A lot of times the answer is not to react and to just wait until we get something solidified and don't play the speculation game. There's enough what ifs in the NFL. We don't need to add more to it. So I'm not doing anything in terms of adjusting Jonnu Smith in any kind of rankings or updates or expectations until there's an actual move. That said, if he goes to Pittsburgh, it is a precipitous decline in fantasy value.
It would tank Pat Freiermuth too. Does that?
Sure.
And again, you say you don't, and I agree with you. Don't make moves based upon what could be. I say all the time, do what is, not what could be. If Pat Freiermuth is sitting there and you're waiting on a tight end, is he just a guy just go in a different direction at this point, just in case? Because I mean, is there really any upside with Pat Freiermuth anyway? We don't really know who the quarterback is either, right? Like
you phrased it perfectly there. Is there any upside as it is right now? And the answer is no.
Right.
I don't think there's much upside there in this offense. We saw last year that even when Freiermuth was healthy, there were times where they get Darnell Washington involved. It's a team that wants to run the ball. It's a team with minimal pass volume. It's a team with questionable quarterback play. I mean, what was Mason Rudolph doing for Chigo Okonkwo last year? Not much. So I'm out. I don't think there's any need to get Freiermuth. I'd rather take a dart throw on literally almost any tight end in that grouping of tight end 13 through 25,
right?
Hoping there's somebody with more upside rather than Freiermuth.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Tyler, you got the whiteboard behind you. You're mapping out your strategy here for the next couple of weeks for the draft guide. You want to share anything that's coming down the pipe that you got some fingers and claws in right now?
I don't know if you can read my handwriting. It's a little lot going on there.
There's a lot on there. It's a lot smaller writing than I thought it was going to be.
I got articles, dates, and cover images of who I want to put on each one.
Okay.
And then a little chart there of how many times Ja'Marr Chase was featured in top 50 winning lineups on Drafters Best Ball Championship last year.
Okay.
So out of the top 50 winning lineups, how many times do you think Ja'Marr Chase made an appearance?
He won the Triple Crown.
Yep.
I'm going to say 60%. I'll go crazy.
Closer to 80. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yep. He was in 39 of 50. Very, very high performance. A lot of Bengals stacks on those squads. So I'm reviewing a lot of stuff for stacking and how things played out last year and how it can be applied towards 2025. My big takeaways as I'm writing these columns and these articles is that not everything that happened the year prior is going to repeat itself.
Right.
Every year is its own little snowflake, so to speak. So take these drafting strategies and these sweeping thoughts and suggestions, not with a grain of salt, but more with like the idea that every draft is a bit dynamic in terms of how it unfolds. And you don't want to go into these best ball drafts with a rigid structure, a rigid plan. You need to be willing to adapt and try to draft as if you're correct. Like say you spend a round 3 pick on Josh Allen. You're putting all your eggs in your basket with Allen being another MVP campaign underway. Draft like that, and I think you'll find yourself in a profitable situation. But tons of stuff for the best ball content that'll be out here on June 9th. I'm getting excited. I'm getting tongue-tied just talking about it. A lot of good content, a lot of graphs, a lot of stats, a lot of data. Should be a good read for you guys. And any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me in our Discord channel. It's
June 5th, folks. June 9th is just around the corner. It's coming up here for Tyler Beaker's Best Ball stuff. We'll continue to have him on the show with us every week here on Thursdays. He comes on about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. As he noted, he's always in Discord answering questions. So you can hit him up there when you sign up for any of the products at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com if you got any questions. You can also follow Tyler on Twitter X at Tyler Beaker, TYLER BUECHER. And you can see him on the live stream Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is part of the package you get if you sign up with us at fantasyguru.com. Tyler, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. Appreciate your excitement. It's that time of year. I know what it's like when the baseball product launches. I get the same feeling, so I know what it's like to be able to finally share all the stuff you've been working on the last couple of months, and we'll look out for all your work, including that best ball stuff here in a couple of days.
All right. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate you having me on today.
You got it. He's Tyler Baker. I'm Ray Flowers. Tomorrow it'll be me and Russell Clay talking a little bit of baseball and a little bit of football here on the show. For Tyler, I am Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Stay tuned from 3 to 6 Eastern today for Jeff Mann's show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, and for Justin Fensterman and myself on 8 to 10. Those two shows coming this evening on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Have a great day.